In the dark, uncharted regions of the galaxy, the notorious space pirates had always prided themselves on one thing: their ability to ambush and overwhelm. They'd raided countless vessels, looted advanced technologies, and made a fortune off their ruthless strategies. Yet, there was one mystery that always eluded them. Why did human ships fly alone? It wasn't the norm in a galaxy filled with fleets, alliances, and military escorts. The pirates had long wondered about this strange quirk, but they never gave it much thought. That is, until they made the mistake of targeting a human ship. It started as a routine raid, nothing out of the ordinary. A single human vessel, barely visible against the backdrop of distant stars, was cruising through the quiet expanse of space. The pirates, circling like vultures, saw this as yet another easy target. Their ship, a hulking behemoth with enough firepower to level a city, moved in for the kill. They'd done it 1,000 times before. But this time, something was different. The human ship, though small, didn't immediately surrender. In fact, it didn't react at all. At first, the pirates thought it was a trick. Maybe the humans were waiting for reinforcements. But they were wrong. When the pirates launched their initial salvo, they didn't expect the counterattack. In the blink of an eye, the human ship's defenses activated, shields flared, weapons fired, and the pirates' massive warship was rocked with explosions. Panic spread through their ranks as their sensors began to fail, their communications cut off. Something was off. The humans weren't just defending themselves. They were fighting back with the kind of precision and power the pirates had never encountered. But what really stunned the pirates was the speed. The human ship was moving in ways that defied all logic. It was as though it could predict their every move, outmaneuvering them with ease. And it wasn't just the ship itself, there was something about the crew. The pirates had heard the rumors, the whispers about human resilience, about their ability to survive against impossible odds. But they had never truly believed it until now. As the pirates regrouped, realizing they were not dealing with an ordinary prey, they tried to escape, but the human ship was relentless. The pirates scrambled to regroup and retaliate, but they couldn't escape the feeling that they had underestimated their adversary in the worst possible way. They were in for a fight. They weren't prepared for a fight that could change everything they thought they knew about space warfare. In the chaos, one pirate captain, desperate for answers, ordered his ship to lock onto the human vessel. "I want to know why they fly alone," he muttered, more to himself than to anyone else. But as the human ship turned to face them once more, the answer they were about to uncover would reveal something far darker than they ever expected. The pirates weren't just fighting a battle for their lives. They were about to learn why humans never traveled with anyone else. And the truth, as they would soon discover, was far more terrifying than they could have ever imagined. As the pirate ship reeled from the barrage, its captain's mind raced. His name was Koran, a man hardened by countless battles across the galaxy. His crew, a band of merciless raiders, had never been bested in their prime, but something about this human ship was different. The way it moved, the way it responded, it felt unnatural. It was like fighting a phantom, something that shouldn't exist in this galaxy, and it unsettled him in ways he couldn't shake off. The pirates had always prided themselves on their tactics, their firepower, their unpredictability. But this human ship was forcing them to question everything they knew. "Why aren't they calling for backup?" Koran muttered, staring at the holographic display as the human ship continued its relentless assault. The pirates were used to enemies begging for mercy or surrendering at the first sign of a fight. But not this time. The human vessel seemed to anticipate their every move, even outgunning their heavier artillery with ease. It was as though the human ship was a living thing, capable of thinking, reacting, evolving in real time. For a moment, Koran's thoughts flashed back to the stories he'd heard as a child, the legends of human soldiers, the myth of their incredible endurance, their uncanny ability to survive in even the most impossible of situations. He had dismissed them as nothing more than exaggerations, stories told by drunken traders and old war veterans. But now, watching this single human ship cripple his entire fleet, he realized those stories might have been more than just tales. Meanwhile, on the human ship, the crew remained calm, their movements synchronized with precision. The captain, A seasoned veteran with a calm demeanor barked orders with a level of focus that betrayed years of experience. He had seen battles like this before, battles where the odds seemed impossible, where survival depended not on sheer strength, but on the human spirit's unwavering resolve. His crew trusted him completely, and they responded without hesitation, each action calculated and deliberate. To the pirates, it must have seemed like the human ship had some kind of supernatural edge, a force they couldn't comprehend. But the truth was much simpler and far more terrifying. A deadly secret, passed down from generation to generation, honed over countless wars, battles, and survival situations. It wasn't just their technology that made them dangerous, it was their adaptability. When faced with overwhelming odds, humans didn't simply fight to survive. They fought to win. As Corin's ship continued to struggle, he realized something that chilled him to his core. This wasn't the first time a pirate vessel had encountered this kind of resistance. In fact, there had been several reports, scattered and hushed, from pirates who had never returned. Stories of crews disappearing after crossing paths with a human ships that appeared out of nowhere, made a single strike, and then vanished into the void, leaving nothing behind but the haunting silence of space. Corin clenched his fists, his mind working overtime. The rumors were true. Something was wrong here. The human ship wasn't just skilled, it was part of something far bigger, a larger force they hadn't even begun to understand. And now, as the human vessel came into full view, Corin's blood ran cold. The ship was slowing down. But not in retreat, no. It was preparing something that would make them regret ever crossing paths with a human. Corin's first officer approached him, her voice trembling. "Captain, I think we need to reconsider this. We might be out of our league here." But Corin was already focused on the looming ship ahead, the unease creeping into his bones. "Too late for that," he said grimly. "We've already made our mistake. Now we have to face the consequences." Just then, a bright, blinding light flared from the human vessel's core, and Corin's last thought before the lights went out was simple. This is no ordinary human ship. The blinding light from the human ship exploded outward, engulfing the pirate vessel in a wave of searing energy. Corin shielded his eyes, the raw intensity of the burst too much to bear. His crew scrambled to maintain control as alarms blared across the ship. Systems flickered, and the once pristine view of the stars was reduced to a dizzying swirl of static. For a moment, Corin wondered if this was it, that they had finally met their end. But then, as quickly as it had started, the light vanished. The ship lurched forward as gravity seemed to return to normal. Corin wiped the sweat from his brow, his pulse racing. His vision cleared, and he saw the human ship calm, eerily silent, and completely undamaged. The pirates, however, were not so fortunate. Critical systems had been knocked offline, communications were scrambled, and several of the smaller ships in their fleet had been disabled in the initial burst. Corin seethed. What, in the name of the stars, was that? He had seen weapons before, powerful ones, enough to turn entire fleets into debris, but nothing like this. This wasn't a weapon of destruction. It was something else, something designed to cripple, to disable, to render them powerless. And yet, the human ship didn't press its advantage. It didn't pursue the kill. It simply hovered in place, its presence looming as if daring the pirates to make a move. On board the human ship, the captain, who had been the quiet leader throughout the chaos, looked out the viewport with cold determination. This was no ordinary raid. He knew that well. But there was no fear in his eyes, only purpose. This wasn't a simple skirmish for resources or prestige. No, this was a warning, one he had been expecting, and he had prepared for it. His crew worked silently, their movements efficient as they double-checked their systems, recalibrating their weapons and securing the ship's critical systems. "What do you think, Captain?" asked one of the officers, his voice low but full of curiosity. "They've never fought back like this before." The captain didn't answer immediately, his gaze still fixed on the pirate ship. "They will never fight back like this again," he said finally. His voice was steady, but there was an edge to it, a warning that rippled through the air. "They've triggered something they don't understand." The officer raised an eyebrow. "You think they know?" The captain turned to face him, his expression unreadable. They will, soon enough. But the real question is whether they will survive long enough to tell anyone. Meanwhile, the pirates were in chaos. The ship's second-in-command, a seasoned officer named Zara, moved quickly through the corridors, barking orders as she tried to stabilize the situation. Her mind was racing as she tried to understand what had just happened. The human ship had a weapon unlike anything they had seen before. Something that didn't just damage the body of a ship, but seemed to reach into the very core of it, shutting down its systems, rendering it useless. How? Why? These questions echoed in her mind as she gathered her crew. They're not leaving, Zara. Karan's voice crackled through her comm. They're toying with us. They know we're wounded, but they haven't finished the job. They're letting us think they can't finish it. But they can. They want us to come at them. Zara's fingers tightened around the console. Then we need to make sure they regret it. Karan's voice grew cold. No. We need to understand why they're flying solo. We've underestimated them once, and it won't happen again. Zara hesitated, feeling a strange unease creep into her chest. It wasn't fear, no. She was a pirate. She had faced down enemies before. But there was something about this situation, something about the calm precision of the human ship that felt wrong. As if the humans knew exactly what they were doing. And that terrified her. She turned to her crew. Prepare for another round. But be ready. They're planning something. I can feel it. Just then, a sudden rumble shook the ship. The lights flickered again, this time more violently. And then, the human ship did something even more unexpected. It sent a single message. Why do you think we fly alone? The words hit Karan's ship like a blow to the gut. There was no threat, no warning of destruction, just that cold, chilling question. Zara stared at the screen, her mind spinning. She didn't know what the answer was. But one thing was clear, they had just stumbled onto something far bigger than they could handle. And whatever it was watching them, waiting for them to make the next move. Karan clenched his jaw, his eyes narrowing. They want us to come after them. And we will. But something in his gut told him that going after this human ship, this enigma of a vessel, would be the last decision he ever made. Karan stood frozen, the message hanging in the air like a weight that pressed down on his chest. The human ship was watching them, waiting for them to make the first move. His mind raced, calculating their next steps, trying to grasp just what they had gotten themselves into. Every part of him screamed to abandon this fight, to pull back and regroup. But his pride, the fierce pride that had driven him to conquer and plunder across the stars, pushed him forward. There was no backing down now. Prepare the weapons. We'll show them why pirates don't run, Karan ordered, though a strange doubt gnawed at the edges of his thoughts. Zara, her face pale but resolute, stepped forward. Captain, we're not in a position to launch a full-scale attack. The human ship's technology, it's beyond anything we've seen. They're not like other targets. Karan's eyes flared with anger, but it was quickly tempered by the realization that Zara was right. They were being pulled into something far deeper than a simple raid. This wasn't a battle for resources anymore. This was about survival. Their survival. The human ship, still silent and hovering in space, seemed almost mocking in its calm. Karan had expected it to fire again, to finish the job. Instead, it waited, poised in a manner that felt deliberate. Every second of silence felt like a countdown, the tension tightening like a noose around their necks. His ship was damaged, vulnerable, and the human ship was showing no signs of fear. It was as though they had all the time in the galaxy, as if they knew the pirates' every thought before they even had it. Zara turned to the comms officer. Send a response. Tell them we're coming for them. Her voice was firm, but the tremor in her hands betrayed the uncertainty she felt. On the bridge, the quiet hum of systems was interrupted by the sudden shrill whine of alarms. Something had triggered, something far more ominous than the usual ship warnings. Karan looked up sharply, his eyes narrowing. Report! He barked. The officer's voice trembled as he read from the console. The human ship, it's changing. Its energy output is spiking. Corin's heart skipped a beat. What did that mean? What were they dealing with? Get us into firing range, he shouted, his voice thick with command. He didn't know what the human ship was planning, but he couldn't afford to wait any longer. They had to strike before it did. As the pirate vessel lunged forward, the human ship responded with a smooth, calculated shift, positioning itself effortlessly outside their trajectory. The pirates' weapons locked onto their target, and Coran's pulse quickened. But just as they prepared to fire, something else happened, something far more unsettling. The human ship unleashed a pulse of energy, not a weapon, but a wave, a pulse that radiated out across space. It wasn't just a shockwave. It was a distortion, something that twisted the very fabric of space around them. The pirate vessel shuddered violently, and Coran stumbled, his hand bracing against the console to steady himself. "We can't move," Zara gasped. Systems are freezing. We can't break free." Coran's heart pounded in his chest. The entire crew could feel the weight of the moment. They were trapped. They'd been caught in some sort of stasis, as though time itself had slowed down. Their ship was suspended in space, unable to move, unable to escape. And worse still, the human ship was slowly drawing closer. The quiet hum of the human vessel was the only sound that filled the void, its eerie presence growing larger with each passing second. There was no more talking, no more planning. The human ship was in control now. "Why don't they just finish us?" Coran murmured to himself. The question echoed in his mind, pulling at the fragile thread of his thoughts. Why were they letting them live? Why hadn't they destroyed them yet? Zara's voice broke through his reverie. "Captain, they're boarding us." Corin's blood ran cold. He turned to her, disbelief written all over his face. "What?" "They've deployed something. It's heading toward our hull." Before he could respond, the ship lurched again. But this time, it wasn't a mere shift. It was a jarring, bone-shaking force. The hull vibrated violently as something massive made contact. The pirates were no longer just fighting a ship, they were facing an invasion. Corin's breath caught in his throat. The human ship had a power he couldn't comprehend, a strategy that was now playing out right before his eyes. They weren't here just to defeat them. They were here to dismantle everything the pirates believed about space warfare, to strip them of their arrogance, their confidence. And then, with an almost casual finality, the human ship's boarding forces made their presence known. Their ships glided effortlessly through the pirate vessel's hull, and the first steps of the enemy were heard, heavy, and deliberate. The pirates had underestimated the humans. Now, they would pay the price. But Corin wasn't ready to give in, not yet. Something inside him refused to accept the inevitable. There had to be a way out. He wasn't going to let this be the end. Not like this. Not without answers. The human forces moved steadily toward the bridge, and Coran's grip tightened on his blaster. He wasn't going down without a fight. But as the door to the bridge hissed open, and the first figure emerged from the shadows, Coran's mind went blank. It was a human, but not just any human. This one wore a uniform. And behind that cold, calm gaze, Coran knew this was the beginning of something much bigger than he ever imagined. The truth was finally about to be revealed. The figure that emerged from the shadows was unlike any human Coran had ever seen. Tall, with a presence that radiated command, the person wore a sleek, dark uniform adorned with insignia that Coran didn't recognize. Their face was calm, unreadable, but there was something in their eyes, something that spoke of experience, of battles fought and won, of secrets kept for too long. The air between them crackled with an intensity that sent a chill down Coran's spine. "Captain Corin," the figure said, their voice low but unmistakably authoritative. "I trust you found the situation enlightening." Corin's hand instinctively went to his blaster, but the human didn't flinch. Instead, they just stood there, waiting for a response, as if time itself had stopped moving. There was no fear in the pirate captain's mind, only a growing sense of dread. He knew this was it. There was no escape. The pirates had been caught in a trap, and the humans had been setting it for a long time. "What do you want?" Corin growled, his voice full of defiance. The human didn't respond immediately. Instead, they turned, glancing at the rest of the pirates on the bridge, all of whom were tense, ready to strike if given the chance. But the human wasn't here to fight. They weren't here for glory or destruction. They had come for something much more valuable. "We want to show you why you've never seen a human fleet before," the figure said, their words slow and deliberate. "You've made a mistake, Captain. The reason we fly solo isn't a weakness. It's the opposite." Corin's brow furrowed. "What do you mean?" "Humans don't need fleets," the figure continued, their voice unwavering. "We don't need overwhelming numbers or flashy weapons. We've never needed them. We've always worked alone, because that's how we win. We fight with ingenuity, with determination, and when necessary, with the element of surprise. You've seen that today. This ship? It's just a glimpse of what we can do when we finally stop holding back." Coran's mind raced as the words sunk in. This wasn't about brute force. The human ship wasn't designed for war in the traditional sense. It was a tool, a symbol of a philosophy. A way of fighting that didn't rely on might, but on adaptability, precision, and an understanding of the very fabric of warfare. The human captain had been in complete control from the moment they had met. "You've been hunting us for resources, Captain," the figure said, almost pityingly. "But this was never about stealing our cargo or plundering our worlds. It was about testing you, pushing you to the edge just to see what you would do when you finally realized what you were up against. We wanted you to understand the one thing you didn't. Humans are never truly alone. We're always one step ahead." Corin swallowed hard. His mind was finally piecing everything together. The pirates had underestimated the humans, thought them weak, thought they could easily overpower them. But the humans had been watching, planning. They had never needed to engage with the pirates on their terms, because they had been waiting for the perfect moment to strike quietly, without fanfare, but with devastating effectiveness. "And now you're going to let us go?" Corin asked, his voice laced with disbelief. The human captain gave a slight nod. "We're not here to kill you, Captain. You've served your purpose. You've given us the opportunity to show you something important. When we choose to fight, it's always on our terms." The tension in the room lifted slightly as the pirates realized they weren't going to be wiped out. But the truth of the situation was undeniable. They had been humiliated, caught off guard by an enemy who had outthought them at every turn. As the human captain turned to leave, they glanced over their shoulder, a small but knowing smile tugging at their lips. "Next time you encounter a human ship, remember this moment. You'll know we're always watching, and we'll always be ready." The pirates stood in stunned silence as the human captain's footsteps echoed through the corridors. Coran, for the first time in his life, felt a sense of true uncertainty. The power of the human ship wasn't in its weapons or technology. It was in their strategy, their ability to fight smarter, not harder. And as much as he hated to admit it, the pirates had just learned a hard lesson. As the human ship departed, disappearing into the stars, Coran looked out into the vast emptiness of space. They had come face to face with a new kind of enemy, one that had broken all the rules they had lived by. And though the battle had been won, the war was far from over. But next time, Coran knew they wouldn't be flying solo. They would be watching, waiting for the humans to make their next move. And when they did, the pirates would be ready because this time, they knew just how dangerous humanity could be.